Hey guys, so today I've got my first 2022 NHL mock draft. Now this is obviously a very early one, as the 2022 draft is still a long time from now. The 2021 draft itself is still a few months away. That's going to be held at the end of July. So the 2022 draft is over a year away. But now most of the actually all the player seasons are now completely wrapped up for their draft year plus one, except for the OHL who didn't have a season this year. But that is mostly fine. There's a lot of Americans this year, not as many OHLers in this year's draft. All other leagues are pretty much done, and obviously this will change a lot. There's going to be some guys in my top 15 that don't end up being first-round picks, maybe not even second-round picks, and there's some guys who I've never heard of and that people might even say are undrafted that could end up being a first-round pick. But today we've got my top 15 rankings, and the teams that are picking doesn't matter too much. I'm not really going by positional needs. This is basically just based on who I think will be drafting where, who I think is going to be the worst team. So I think Nashville is going to be the worst team next year, and Columbus second worst, San Jose third worst. So that's basically how I'm doing this. It's just by the teams, but it's mostly just a ranking, not by positional needs, by the teams. So let's get started here. At number one, we have Shane Wright. This is the easiest pick. He's obviously going first overall. He's the best prospect since Connor McDavid, without a doubt. And he didn't play this year because the OHL did get canceled, but last year, as a 15-year-old, after getting exceptional stats in his rookie year with the Kingston Frontenac, he had 66 points in 58 games, including 39 goals and 27 assists. So he broke McDavid's record for points as a rookie in the OHL. So that's pretty crazy there, and he's an amazing prospect. He's definitely going to go first overall. Moving on to number two, we have Columbus Blue Jackets picking here, and I've been taking Brad Lambert. So I think this is very close between who I've had going 2 and 3, but Brad Lambert gets the edge here. He's playing in the Liga with JYP, and he has 15 points in 46 games. So that's very, very good numbers, and he's putting himself alongside some guys like Patrick Laine. So he's one of the top Finnish prospects, and like I said, the guy going number 3 is very close, and that is Matthew Savoie. So originally I did have him at number 2, but I think it is very close, but I have to drop Matthew Savoie a bit because Brad Lambert has just been amazing. In a lot of recent mock drafts, Brad Lambert has been number 2, but Matthew Savoie currently has 38 points in 34 games, so just over a point per game, with the Dubuque Fighting Saints of the USHL. So it isn't that great of a league. It's the USHL, but he is playing the same league as a lot of the other Americans there in the USDP. And even though Savoie's Canadian, he actually got drafted by the Winnipeg Ice in the QMJHL, but he's playing in the USHL, and he probably will be until he is drafted. So he put up pretty good numbers, but I think he could even end up falling into the top 3, as his numbers aren't completely amazing. Now moving on to number 4, we have the Ducks selecting Simone Nemec. Now, Rector McGroarty is actually the majority for 4th overall pick. He's the guy a lot of people think are going there, but I think they are actually going with the Slovak Simone Nemec. He played with the HK Nitra in the top Slovakian men's league, and he put on 19 points in 37 games as a defenseman, which is crazy as a 16-year-old. The next best player in that league was Eric Chernak, who barely put up any points and didn't play too many games. But Nemec played a whole season as a 16-year-old in the top men's league in Slovakia, which is crazy. And he's putting himself up with similar numbers to forwards Marian Hossa, Marian Gaborik. Each had like a point per game, but they're both forwards. Hossa is probably going to be a Hall of Famer, and Gaborik's also was a very, very good player. So Nemec is setting himself up to be an amazing player, and I think that he's deserving of this number 4 spot. Next up at 5, we have Isaac Howard. So we have the first USDP player and the first of many here going at number 5. And Isaac Howard is a left wing from the USNTDP, and he had 54 points in 34 games. He is an excellent player, and he's pretty underrated putting up the stats he has put up. He's 5'10". As I said, he is a left wing, and he's a very, very good scorer and offensive player with the US and TDP. Now, he is a winger, which isn't valued as much as a center, but he still put up really good points, and he's committed to University of Minnesota Duluth in the NCAA for the 2022-2023 season. Next up at number 6, we finally have Wrecker McGroarty coming off the board. So as I said, he is projected to go 4th overall, but I just don't think that his stats really reflect that much. He put up 35 points in 34 games, the USNTDP, as a center, which is still very good. And I think the biggest draw of him is he's a very good two-way all-around player, and he's looked at as one of the most complete players in this draft. And he's also an excellent offensive player. On top of that, he's already 6'1", 200 pounds, so he's got some solid size to him, and he's an elite goal scorer as well. So I'm going at 6. Next up at 7, we've got the Seattle Kraken's pick, and they're going to be taking the 3rd straight USNTDP player in Frank Nazar. So Nazar put up 55 points in 45 games, including 28 goals and 27 assists as a right wing for the USNTDP. So he is actually has the most points out of the players eligible for this draft in the USNTDP. But I think that it is very close between him, Rutger, McGroarty, and Isaac Howard. But I gave McGroarty the slight edge as he's probably more complete, and a lot of mock drafts have him higher, and I think I have to give Isaac Howard the slight edge as well. And Frank Nazar is smaller. He's only 5'9", but he's put up all these points, and in the U18 team as well. He has 30 points in 2 games because he just turned 17. So he's a very good player, and I think that he could easily be a top 5 pick. Moving on to number 8, I have the Flames selecting Elias Salomonsson. I really like Salomon. He's put up 15 points in 14 games with a team in the Swedish J20 league. So it's an under 20 league. It's not the SHL, as Lambert is putting up really good numbers in Liga, but he will be playing in the SHL for sure next year. And he is a defenseman, so putting up these numbers is pretty crazy, over a point per game in the U20 league. And he's putting up similar numbers to guys like Rasmus Dahlin. So he hasn't put up any points so far yet with the SHL, playing with AIK. He's had 0 points in 3 games, and he didn't do much in the World Junior U18 Championship. He didn't have any points in 7 games, but I don't think that is any cause to worry at all, as he's still an excellent defenseman. And he's a very good two-way defenseman, can move the puck, and he's great in the offensive and defensive zones. Moving on to number 9, the Blackhawks pick, and they're taking Logan Cooley. I think he is one of the most underrated players in this draft, and he can easily go a lot higher, and he can kind of be a dark horse player like Tim Stützle was last year, and end up being a top 5 and maybe even top 3 player in this draft with a big performance next year. Put up 32 points in 28 games with 16 goals and 16 assists in the USNTDP. He is a center, and as you can see with the stats, he's pretty underrated. He's a higher points per game than Rutger McGroarty. He's only 5'10" though, but he is still, I think, a really good player. He put up 14 points in 19 games as well with the U18 team as a center, so that is pretty good. Next up at 10, we have the Coyotes pick, and they're taking Danila Yurov. So he's the only Russian on this list, or actually the first Russian on this list. We do have another one here, and he's another excellent player. A lot of these guys are pretty close. I think Logan Cooley and Yurov are pretty interchangeable here, but Yurov put up 25 points in 23 games with the NHL, which is the league that Matvei Michkov is playing in. It's the top junior league in Russia, so it goes the KHL, which is the top league, and the VHL is basically their version of the AHL, and the MHL is kind of like their CHL. It's their top junior league, so it's not a men's league, but he's still putting up over a point per game there, and it's the same league that Michkov is playing in, and all these 16-year-old dudes really do play in. So this is pretty good numbers still, even though it is not that great of a league. Next up at 11, we have the Kings pick, and they're taking Juraj Slafkovsky. So Slafkovsky is another Slovak, and he has 13 points in 16 games, with 8 of them being goals, then with the TPS U20 in the U20 SM Starter League in Finland. So he actually also played in the World Juniors, along with a match in for Slovakia, and he's played pretty well. He's a big 6'4", 218 forward, and in the World Juniors, he didn't have any points, but he is 16, so it's pretty expected. And he's putting up pretty numbers in Finland, so I don't know about Slafkovsky. He could end up dropping a bit, but it's pretty close between him and some other guys. Now, next up, we have the Devils pick at 12, and this is definitely my favorite pick. I have them taking another Jack Hughes, so this is the other Jack Hughes, and even though I don't think the Devils will actually pick him, because that'll just be way too confusing, it is pretty interesting here, as this is not Jack Hughes who went first overall in 2019, this is another Jack Hughes, who is a forward for the USNTDP. He put up 34 points in 38 games, and he's projected to be a top 15 pick for this draft, so I think it is pretty likely that he is available for the Devils pick, and the Devils will be probably picking in the area that Jack Hughes is available, so that would be hilarious to see two Jack Hugheses on the Devils. We're going to see two Jack Hugheses be first-round picks in 4 years, which is very interesting. But next up at 13, we have the Sens pick, and they're going to be picking Ivan Miroshnichenko. He's the second Russian on this list, and he has 15 points in 20 games with Omsky Yastrzębie of the NHL. He's a really good left wing who can score and is very good offensively. He's 6'1", 185, so decent size, and I think probably his biggest draw is his skating, as well as his shot, so he has really good potential there. And he had 8 points in 7 games in the U18 championships, so I think that he could sneak into the top 10. Moving on to number 14 with the Pens pick, and they're going to be taking Seamus Casey. So we have another American here, the USNTDP. He has 36 points in 46 games as a defenseman, and I think he's a pretty underrated player. He definitely deserves to be a top 15 pick, putting up these numbers as a defenseman. And he's smaller, he's only 5'10", but he's a very good offensive defenseman. And he's committed for University of Michigan in 23-24, so he may drop as teams won't be able to play him until the 24-25 season. And lastly here at number 15 with the Flyers pick, the Flyers are going to be taking Maddox Fleming. He's another pick from the USNTDP. He is a winger, and he put up 30 points in 39 games, so some pretty good stats there, and I think the Flyers should be happy to bring him in. So there is my mock draft. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please remember to leave a like and subscribe. You're still a couple years away, so all of this will likely change, except for probably the top 3. Shane Wright's gonna go first overall without a doubt, and Lambert and Savoie should go 2 and 3, however order that is. But I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.